native who graduated from Westminster College and is currently getting her Master's of City and Metropolitan Planning, specializing in housing and community development at the University of Utah. She spent 2.5 years at the Salt Lake Chamber as a Northern Region Program Coordinator for the Women's Business Center of Utah. Working with inspirational female business owners gave her the entrepreneurial bug that led her to open Mosaic Bakery, a virtual Mediterranean and Middle Eastern baklava store dedicated to celebrating the diverse community of Utah. She is currently a network director at the United Way and is one of the co-founders of Canvas for a Cause, a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to empowering, teaching, and inspiring youth from underserved communities to explore creative practices, become artistic leaders, and amplify their voice to create change in their community, led by Terry Slaw and team. In her spare time, Teresa develops in her passion in architecture, small business, urban growth, and design by volunteering on a number of small business committees, including co-chairing the South Salt Lake Women in Business Committee and being the vice president of the Dual Immersion Academy Board.
Cool, thank you. All right, so my presentation today is understanding and achieving growth mindset. And this stemmed from a presentation I did on the past about vision boards. So Jennifer Goodwin, actually, she asked me if I could present on that. And for a while I did. It was all about this accumulation of visuals in order to really put yourself on a path of growth and motivation in terms of like, where can you go? What is the next step? How can you get there? And so this is a little bit of that, but it does take a different approach. And what we're going to look at instead is mind mapping and really understanding the fixed and the growth mindset and how we can really ultimately achieve growth mindset through this one specific tool. And so to give some context, why this means a lot to me personally is the single visual, which I hope all of you guys have a photo, a reminder, if it's your family, if it's a thing, a place, whatever that is that gets you excited and it gets you motivated for the next step. So when I was in college, I had no idea what I was going to do. I feel like that's the ultimate thing. You're in college, you don't know. And I couldn't really figure it out. There was a lot of different pieces. I was interested in so many different things. But what really brought it all together, what spoke to me, is this church. This church is in Spain. It's over 100 years old. Inside, it was as any church would be, but it was completely abandoned. There was no hope for it because it was deteriorating until this skateboard group came in and they saw potential in this church. And with the right permissions and support from the community and the sponsorship of Red Bull, they turned the inside into a skate park. They turned it into a community center, a place for people to gather. They brought in local artists. The entire theme is this whole psychedelic piece that you see on the ceiling. And now it has new life that's breathed into it. And so this is what led me to city planning. There essentially nothing else really spoke to me. And this is exactly what I wrote my application on in order to get into the program, is a single image. And that image was painted out with words. And so this is an example of how much thought and ideas can really resonate in a single image in a motivational piece. And so this ties into this idea of growth mindset, which we're going to talk about understanding it. What does that mean exactly? What is the fixed and the growth? Understanding how to achieve it, what that looks like at a company level, or if you run your own team, what does that look like within the team that you hold? And then how can we use mind mapping to move in the direction of growth mindset? And so growth mindset is something that Dr. Carol Dweck talks about. This book has a lot of great insight. She has a lot of TED Talks on this piece. And this quote really spoke out, and I do want to read it out because I think this speaks a lot to what it is and what it isn't. So it says, "One on earth would make someone a non-learner. Everyone is born with an intense drive to learn. Infants stretch their skills daily, not just ordinary skills, but the most difficult tasks of a lifetime, like learning to walk and talk. They never decide it's too hard or not worth the effort. Babies don't worry about making mistakes or humiliating themselves. They walk, they fall, they get up, they just march forward. What could put an end to this exuberant learning? The fixed mindset. As soon as children become able to evaluate themselves, some of them become afraid of challenges. They become afraid of not being smart. I have studied thousands of people from preschoolers on, and it's breathtaking how many reject an opportunity to learn. And so this idea of that we were born to take risks, we're born to make mistakes, to fail, to learn from them. We've been doing that as children, but over time, because of the social construct that we live in, we begin to fear failure. And so that sets us back. We don't want to take risks. It's a natural human response to want to be cautious in order to avoid being hurt, being vulnerable, taking risk. But that essentially puts us more and more into a fixed mindset. And so Dr. Dweck talked about how we need to embrace challenges, and we also need to have these conversations on failure, because essentially when you're in a fixed mindset, becomes very difficult to learn new material, to further ourselves, whether it's in our job or in our personal lives. It becomes fixed, and essentially it's trying to retain that habit of being able to take that next step forward. So those that have that fixed mindset, which arguably all of us do in some way, is a meaning that it's a belief that your abilities, talents, intelligence, or personality traits are given and unchangeable, that you are the way you are, and that there's no other way to go about it. That there's, whether that's a perspective or whether that's if you have difficulty swimming, that you're not going to try it anymore because of a fear of drowning or whatever it may be. And I'm not saying jump off into a pool of water and hope you float and don't drown, but it's this fear of ever trying it again. Like if you fall off a bicycle, then you're not going to get back on and continue forward. But when it comes to a growth mindset, it's having the belief that your talents, intelligence, and abilities can be developed further, that there's always room for growth, that there's always room to further and challenge yourself. And so when we tie this back to the vision board, often vision boards are these exciting goals that we have. And when do we do them? We do them around New Year's, a new year, new me. That mentality is a growth mindset. It stops on January 1st once the vision board is done, and we don't want to further that anymore. So this thought of how do you move forward with this exciting visual of everything that you want to achieve in life. And so how do you achieve a growth mindset? There's a million ways to do so. It becomes difficult to really decide on one path. But some of the things that are often told to me that I like to pass on is seeing challenges as an opportunity. And if there's anything, whether that's presented to you as a networking experience that you weren't comfortable going to from the beginning, or taking on a hobby or taking a class, saying yes to that opportunity within making sure that you respect your own boundaries of doing so, but ultimately saying yes to something that's challenging that you otherwise wouldn't have done before. Most importantly, embracing failure. And so there's this exciting event called Failure Institute. And it's entirely about this idea of how in so many business events that we attend, networking events, lectures, it is often taught by people who are placed on certain pedestals in terms of they're talking about their successes. They're talking about an exciting, innovative thing that they've done, or they're leading an initiative, whatever that looks like. And it very little talks about the failures that brought them to that success. And it often is seen in everything that we do. When it comes to social media, we don't often talk about our failures. We talk about the exciting things in life. We don't talk about the mundane. It shows up in our work setting when we get excited about the successes, but the failures are often showing up in ways that make us feel like we failed even more. How do we get out of that failure? We never sit in failure. We never celebrate failure. But that is a part of the learning journey. Failure should be just as exciting at times as success, but it is very difficult to get there, and changing the mindset to embrace it. And so embracing failure means having those conversations, talking with others. If we can dedicate a whole South Salt Lake Women in Business Committee meeting to just talking about that, it's really important, because essentially we've all gone through similar things. We've all related in one way or another when it comes to failure, and it does ultimately resurface that vulnerability that we can work through together. And then taking every opportunity to educate yourself and expand your skill set. And when I talk about this, it's in this, it's often with a committee. And so this could essentially look like going to a workshop, going to a networking event. If there's something that is presented to you in your job, or if there's a potential hobby that you can go into, reading a book, listening to a podcast, whatever that looks like, it's great to be able to move forward. And then the last one, which is building your network. Because oftentimes, I mean, if you take this Women in Business Committee, for example, we're all here from different backgrounds with different experiences and skill sets, and we're learning from each other. This last 30 minutes is dedicated to not only building our network, but understanding a new perspective or skill set or whatever that may look like. To continuously do that and to make the effort to learn from one another, to support each other, to go out into the different networks that are out there, that can become ultimately very powerful, because not only are you learning from others and you're expanding and you're working on your own mindset, but you're teaching others about your perspectives as well, and you're challenging yourself when you are reiterating that. So in terms of like on the how can a company cultivate the mindset, or in other words, how can you cultivate growth mindset in whatever team you're leading, project, whatever that may look like. For one is providing your workforce or your group a sense of curiosity and encouraging continual training and development. It's the ability to say it's okay to make mistakes, or let's look at this together, let's search, let's whatever that may look like. Is creating smart objectives and making sure that whatever goals you put for yourself, so going back to that vision board, if there's something that you want to achieve, like the ultimate vacation, to put it into the SMART perspective. What is measurable? What is realistic? What is the timing behind it? Encouraging employee efforts as well as successes, because successes don't get there right away, but there are multiple steps that can lead you to that success. And there's multiple failures that can lead you to that success. And we'll look at that through the mind mapping exercise. And then it's creating personal development objectives that structure goals. So if we are looking at a vision board, or if we're looking at a mind map and you have a specific goal, and let's say this goal is starting a business, you have your personal development within yourself that you can list and say, I want to achieve confidence in doing A, B, and C. I want to learn how to talk to people in order to be able to promote my product, sell my product, whatever that looks like. That is a personal development objective within the structural goal of starting a business. And of course, embracing failure as a company, creating dialogue for it, learning how to respond effectively and in a supportive manner to those that are showing failure, creating a space where vulnerability is okay, and then finding together, strategizing ways of how to move forward from failure and really not only embrace it, but take it to the next step towards success. So mind mapping is a way to do a little bit of everything. It's sometimes a way to create a vision board without having to go through the effort of cutting up all these magazines. So this isn't for everyone, because mind mapping or vision boards are very visual. It's the arts and crafts piece, and many people enjoy that and find that therapeutic. I personally, even though that's very therapeutic, tend to lean towards mind mapping, because it is something that you can do at the beginning of every day when you have free time. You just need a pen and a paper. And so it's this expression of radiant thinking. It helps unlock the potential of the brain. And what you're doing is you're setting yourself a main goal. It's something that you have right in the middle, and you are not allowing yourself time to overthink it. And so if you have a paper in front of you and you have a pen, and you put something right in the middle, and that could be personal growth, or it could be just reading. If reading is your ultimate goal, and you put that right in the middle, and you give yourself 5 minutes, you have to generate as many ideas as possible that come from this in order to get the juices flowing. Not a single idea is bad. It doesn't have to make sense. It could be a photo even. And so the first thing that you're doing is you're writing your main topic. This central image, it's meant to stimulate the processes, it's meant to get you thinking. And so once you have that in place,
you start with your major ideas. So if the example we're having is, I'm going to go back to starting your own business. The first idea, or all of these, could be, what is that business idea? What is it that you're passionate about? Or it could be just this one thing. This is your passion. So you could write, I'd like to sell this product, or I'd like to achieve this in my community. The next one could be something else. The next one could be something else. And essentially you're branching out more and more at each branch. So if you have your idea 1, and then you have your idea 1.1. This idea 1.1 is a specific part of achieving that idea 1. And it may sound confusing, but there's literally no inaccurate way of doing this. You are just you're throwing as many words onto a piece of paper as possible. So again, this idea 4, that's depicting the ordering of the ideas. It's how do you lead yourself back to your ultimate goal? And then you go into the smaller branches. Those are the specific details, and you can get as specific as you want to be. You can relate as many things back to that smaller idea as you want. So this is an example to just get a better idea of what this could look like. The one on the left, or maybe I shouldn't say that, it's the one that's solving global warming. That's the ultimate goal. And this person, they've used colors, they've used images, words, all of these different pieces to depict how they want to solve a specific problem, or do something within their own life that will help contribute to solving global warming. And so they listed a number of things. What does traveling look like? What does solving global warming look like in the home? What are the tiny details of that? What are the steps that they can take that they have control over to get into that area? There's a couple of pieces here where they say, this is what I want to do and how I want to learn, how I want to implement this practice. And then on the right, this is a personal example that I used for building an art program, which I ended up taking this out when Terry pulled me into Canvas for a Cause and we started talking about it. This is what I use because it's like, well, now the pieces are coming together. So I started off with, I want to start an art program. And then I branched out to, well, I want to talk about social justice. I want to talk about art techniques. I want to talk about specific artists, looking at the BIPOC community. And then those ended up branching out more and more and more. And so I know that we have 8 minutes left, but I do want to encourage, I want to see what that looks like to you guys, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen, but I do want to see if you guys have like a pencil and paper in front of you, what yours could look like if we just give you 2 minutes to think about, instead of 5 minutes, 2 minutes, to quickly do this. Think of a goal, write it in the middle of your paper, and then start jotting down, branching out, whatever it looks like to you, just go for it. Think about what inspires you, what brings you happiness, what motivates you. And then the final thing that we're going to add on to this is, when can you start giving things a date? When can you start giving yourself accountability and measurable expectations? How can you embed that into your growth mindset? Meaning that if you have this goal, how can you get there through a learning process, whether that's reading, networking, whatever that looks like. And so I'm going to stop sharing this, if I can get out of that. Can you guys still see? No, you guys, okay. I'm not sharing anymore, I don't think. Right?
Yeah, no, you're done sharing.
Cool. So if you guys want to take out a piece of paper and a pen, and for 2 minutes, and I'll put a timer on, start drawing things out. I hope we all have some time to share what this process looked like for us. Put a goal right in the middle. I'm going to set my timer. Okay. So the timer's starting now. You have 2 minutes, quiet time. Don't overthink it. Throw everything out onto the page about your goal and where you'd like to go. Okay, starting now. And I'll give like a 10-second warning. We have 10 seconds left. Finish up your final thoughts. And time. Okay. Is anyone brave enough to share either what the experience looks like or what they had as their goal, or how did their map turn out?
I'll share. I'll go ahead.
Yay.
Okay. I've never done this before, so this is pretty cool, I guess. One thing I need to learn more about my business, because I spend most of my time working with my hands, is the accounting part. So I don't know if you can see this.
Yeah.
But I want to learn more about accounting and spend more time doing that. It's something I tend to put off. And so I've got in the center, like accounting, and I have on the outsides QuickBooks, paper files, computer files, client contact list, invoicing. I need separate bank accounts, I think, for separate parts of the business, and taxes. All those things I can spend more time on, and I really need to. So
I love that. Thank you for sharing. And
You're welcome.
and I like how it went from broad to specific, and you branched out in a lot of different directions, and they all ultimately went back to that main goal.
Right. Yeah. That was pretty cool.
Great. Anyone else?
Oh, I have like the blur effect on, so it's gonna keep blurring it out, which is super convenient. One of my goals this year, next year, is to be offered my first artist residency. So I started with that big in the middle, and then I branched it out to more specific goals that would help me get there. So I've had 2 exhibitions for my artwork this year, which is pretty exciting, but getting a third one would round out my application. I need to be more specific in the location I want a residency, which is the United Kingdom. So I wrote that down. And then I wrote down, research specific British fiber crafts so that I could narrow my focus and my application. And then I also put connect with artists through virtual conferences. So
that's awesome. And I like how you took it with it's an action plan. Your mind map turned into an action plan with the specific goals that you have. And it's interesting how it looks visually too. I hope you get the arts residency.
Thanks.
So cool.
Fingers crossed.
And for the sake of time, I don't want to go over, but what I would encourage is to hold on to this plan, because what you can do is as I said, turn that into the action plan. So you can put, like, for example, Angie, having dates associated with each thing, having a timeline that's reasonable, but also pushes you to be able to continue to move forward with it. But then also going into that in-depth, like branching it out with the details of where can you get that accounting assistance, which Women's Business Center would be an awesome place because they have so many classes. The accounting assistance, maybe going to like Utah Microloan Fund, Banking on Women, enrolling into the program that they have, like all of these different pieces. And so then you know that it doesn't just stop there, that there's an action item associated with the dream or the idea that you have. And you can essentially do that with anything. If it's a trip that you're planning, if it's purchasing your first home, like what does that look like on a piece of paper? And then also just thinking of the visual, like I have that skate park church, what visual is associated that gets you excited? And so those are the 2 things that you can put together, put in any journal, planner, on your screensaver, whatever that looks like, and keep it as a motivational piece to ultimately move forward through the process of growth mindset. So that's all I have. If you guys have any questions, we have minute, but I also don't want to hold anyone past 6. So yeah. Terry, is there anything else?
I think that was amazing. I'm really, really excited to put the video together and actually see everything that you were talking about. So I'm good. This was great. Thank you.